The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Welcome to the program. We have got a lot going on as Tennessee, the number one team in the nation, the only undefeated team in the nation. Talking about basketball. We'll also work some football in there, some NIL and transfer portal talk. As Tennessee, I was on a radio show in Memphis this morning. Caleb, Tennessee fans are concerned. So far, they've seen players depart. They haven't seen a lot of players come in. So we will dig into that on the program as well. Caleb Calhoun, how are you, sir?
I'm tremendous. I am very tremendous. How are you, Dave?
I'm good. I could have this morning when I was on that Memphis radio show, I could have won a gift certificate to a wing place. They asked the trivia question, who has the most catches in the history of tight ends in the NFL? Do you know who that is?
Antonio Gates, Travis Kelce.
I think it's Tony Gonzalez. I would have to double check that, but I think it's Tony Gonzalez. Somebody can help me on the message board. Let's go ahead and get it started right now. Today's tough question is brought to you by our fine title sponsor, Banks & Jones, T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Caleb, help me here. Why are Tennessee fans not more excited about the basketball team that happens to be one of the best in the nation, no matter if you go by record or ranking? Explain to me why, and give me some insight on the message board. Why does it seem like you're not excited about Tennessee basketball? Because I don't know what more you want. And Caleb was ahead of the curve on this, and he has been a couple of different times, which is why I love working with him. He thought that this basketball team would be better than last year's Dalton Connect team. Caleb, I'm not agreeing, but I'm leaning towards where you are. And not only a better team, but a more well-rounded team. I'm not sure that Tennessee beats Auburn last year at home without that Dalton Connect 40-point outing. But I'm not sure they're in that position with this team where they need one man to take over. So, Caleb, this is a basketball team that fans should be very excited about, but I just don't feel it, and I can't explain why.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way, and I don't get it. I mean, they are off to their best start in over 100 years, okay? And, well, if they win tonight, we'll match their best start in school history. They have just finished their fifth straight week, number one in the APN coaches poll. Before this year, Dave, did you guess how many weeks they've been number one in the APN coaches poll?
2?
5, but still, 5. They matched their total in history in just the last 5 weeks. Okay, they have one of their most exciting players maybe ever. I mean, I'm willing to say Chaz Lanier is as exciting as any basketball player in Tennessee history with the way he plays. And they are coming off an Elite Eight run, and you just kind of feel a sense of and people are going to bring up, and I get it, people are going to bring up, well, it doesn't have the same pizzazz football does. Nobody ever expects Tennessee basketball to be on Tennessee football's level. I've seen more enthusiasm behind Tennessee basketball, though, than I see this year. The first year under Bruce Pearl, Dave, they never reached number one. They never reached the top 5. They reached the top 10 once. The excitement was way higher than it is this year.
Okay, but what's the difference, though? The difference is that team had Bruce Pearl that would stand up on tables in common eating areas for students, get them excited about basketball, that would dress up and drag like that. No, he didn't dress up and drag like that. But he did paint his chest and all that. Cheered and he did it. So Rick Barnes is never going to do that. So are we just where we are in terms of Caleb? Rick Barnes is not going to be Bruce Pearl. He may field a fantastic team. You don't have a Dalton Connect that is as versatile. I really like Chaz Lanier, don't get me wrong, but I think you would agree Dalton was better taking it to the rack. You don't have everything you want, but come on. Quit being babies about this thing. I mean, you have an incredible basketball program, and I believe that Tennessee is second to only Kentucky in terms of basketball history. Well, I guess you would have to give it to Florida because of the Billy Donovan run. So maybe that.
And Arkansas because of the Nolan run.
Okay. But in terms of all-time wins in the SEC, I believe they're second, Caleb, to Kentucky. So I don't understand why this team is not more beloved. I wonder how much of this is NIL. You can restock a football team and still have the same key players, right? I mean, they're not going to be one and done most of the time.
Right.
But with NIL, you could flip a roster each and every year. And I wonder what that does for Tennessee basketball fans that want to get behind people, but you're not going to have Chris Lofton for 4 years anymore, guys. I mean, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, you know what? I think it goes a little deeper than that. I honestly think there's two things going on at play. All right, the first one is, and I want to know your thoughts. You've been covering Tennessee for a while. I think there's a little bit of a.
Caleb always likes to work in how old I am, but that's okay.
Well, I'm going to give you a quick example. Remember how unappreciative Tennessee football fans were to be in the SEC title game in 2001 after they beat Florida?
Ooh, that's a out of left field, but a good comparison.
Yeah, they were so used to success, they just threw it aside. And now, then you got a college football playoff game this past year, and Tennessee fans filled up the horseshoe, desperate, hungry for success. I think they're taking the basketball success for granted. I mean, this program just made the Elite Eight, won the SEC regular season titles, made 2 straight Sweet 16s. I think that's part of it. I think the other part, and this is a big one. Well, it's threefold actually, but the next two are tied. One is, I think people are tired of any Rick Barnes regular season success. I think people have decided with Rick Barnes, all that matters is what he does in March, because Rick Barnes has accomplished everything you possibly can in a regular season. So no one's that interested in it.
Okay, I think you're right, but I also have another theory. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones. Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. You know what I think it is?
I'm ready. Hit me.
I think it's the college football playoff. Okay, now work with me for a second. I have several friends, not one or two, Caleb, but several friends that, and fill in the message board. I want to hear why you think Tennessee fans aren't behind this very, very good basketball team. I think it's the college football playoff, because I have several friends that it's not even a question. If they held an Ottawa Bowl, they would go to Ottawa as one of their 2 vacations. They go in the summer to the beach, and they go wherever the bowl game is. So I don't know about you, but when Tennessee lost that game against Ohio State, it felt like more than a loss. It felt like the rug had been pulled out from under the season, and boom, it's over. And you've got 2 weeks that you're used to talking about football, how Bobby Joe's doing in bowl practice, the fact that Nico came early to bowl practice, that you've got all these fun football storylines, and then bam, it's gone. with 10 days left in the calendar year. I think it's that. I think that, and I will say this, and I want every fan out there, every Tennessee fan to know that I love you. You make this possible, but you're being a little bit whiny. Last year, what happened, Caleb? A baseball national championship, an Elite Eight, and you finish in the top 12 of all college football teams. If you do that every year, you're one of the best programs in the nation.
Yeah, I totally agree. I absolutely agree. I think that
I should say best departments in the nation. Excuse me.
I think it reaches another layer of depth, which is, I got to say that I warned you. I'm warning you this now of the college football playoff. College basketball is a little bit different from when Bruce Pearl was coaching Tennessee to where it is now. They have consistently gone. Now, the NCAA tournament's only 4 teams bigger, but they've consistently gone out of their way to make everything about March. When you make everything about a postseason, what have I told you happens, Dave? You devalue the regular season. And college basketball has branded itself as March. It's all about March Madness. I mean, I'll debate people all the time about college football being better than college basketball. What college basketball people throw at me? They'll be like, "Well, March Madness is so great," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's 3 weeks."
Okay, Caleb. Usually I could roll with that, but I can't roll with that now because Tennessee got behind the basketball team last January. They had a likable player. You're like, man, how good can he be? And but the difference is you were coming off what was considered a successful football season. I just think this hangover with football is the biggest factor. I think there are some people that are just like, golly, man, I've invested all this time, and now I'm going to invest in a guy, Rick Barnes, that's only made the Final Four once, and he's coached for 800 years. Man, I think it's a combination of everything, but I'm going to set it up as a poll question. Why are fans not behind the basketball Vols? Football hangover. And then how about Rick Barnes' lack of success? What else is there? I see Derek.
How about this? You say football hangover. I mean, I know this wouldn't play last year because they were very excited about the program last year. How about just recent basketball success? This is weird to say, but because of the success they had last year, they don't really care about the regular season this year. Think about it this way. I'll give it to you this way. Do you remember, and I'll do another football reference. Do you remember when Alabama lost to Florida in the 2008 SEC title game in football?
Yes.
Nick Saban's second year. Did you not notice the next year they circled the SEC title game? That's all they were thinking about. The whole year they were playing that season was the SEC title. And that's why they almost lost to Tennessee and Lane Kiffin that year too. Because they just were looking ahead to Atlanta pretty much. And that showed because when they got to Atlanta, they beat the brakes off Florida and Urban Meyer faked a heart attack. But before that happened,
it's funny because it's true.
It is. Alabama that whole season was just basic. And Dave, you remember you covered Tennessee that year, I know, but I'm sure you were seeing Alabama covering them to a degree. Were they not every week let's just get past this game? We just want to get to the SEC title. We just want to get there because we've already, and that's why they almost lost to Tennessee. Yep. And I think Tennessee's that way with March now under Rick Barnes. I think this Tennessee team, I think the fan base is basically like, let's just get to March. We've won the SEC regular season. We've made the Elite Eight. We've won the SEC tournament. We're tired of accomplishing everything but making a Final Four with this program. I think that's how Tennessee fans are feeling at this point.
Gene says, I think we are behind the basketball team. David says Tennessee is a football team. I think even school, they will support basketball, men's and women's, plus baseball if they are good. David says football school. Yeah. So and maybe that's just it. So here's what I did. I made a poll question, and I want you to know that one of the choices I do not at all subscribe to, because I think Zakai Ziegler, and I'm actually going to write a column about this, Caleb. Who's the most likable Tennessee athlete before Zakai Ziegler? Who is more likable than him based off what he's done. He's got a little bit of the short man thing going on too. He hustles. He knows I don't know that there's a guy recently that in any sport that should be more beloved than him. But why are fans not behind the
You're going to have to stop that and accept Juwan Jennings as a beloved Vol. You are going to have to come to grips with the fact that Tennessee fans love Juwan Jennings, and they should.
Okay, I'll address him in my column. Maybe he's the last one.
Trey Smith, too, also is beloved.
Yeah, but a lineman, he's not touching the ball every time. It's like, hi. So, he should be. But why are fans not behind the basketball Vols? Football hangover, Rick Barnes' lack of tourney wins, no likable star, or I'm all in. Okay, well, 70% of our audience so far says I'm all in. 30% says football hangover, but for some reason, it doesn't quite feel like Tennessee fans are completely all in, but you should be. Caleb, at the end of the day, let's pretend that you're a head coach. Which team would you prefer from the beginning of the year? Last year's basketball team or this year's basketball team? If you're Rick Barnes, which team do you feel like gives you the better opportunity for success?
This is not even a debate, bro. It's this year's basketball team. This year's basketball team is freaking amazing. I'm sorry. It's this year's basketball team.
I can't argue with that. I can't argue with it. So go ahead and vote in the poll question. We're going to get Caleb a lozenge. And do you feel
whatever? All
right. Kalen DeBoer is absolutely doomed. And I'm going to tell you why. Just in 2 minutes. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. Dare to compare.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beat. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Might go deep here in a second, Caleb.
Okay.
No. I might share some things, some personal things here for long. It's been a run. But no, I don't know what you're thinking. But all right, Caleb. Kalen DeBoer.
I'm not thinking anything.
Kalen DeBoer almost took Alabama to the college football playoff year number 1. Total overhaul, total change. You go from a physical running football team, not to say they're not physical, but you change your offense, you change what you do. You have a quarterback that doesn't fit. But I think Kalen DeBoer is in trouble, like a lot of trouble. And that sounds bizarro, but I'm going to tell you why. And it's what the H.
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
And you said there was a website, Fire Kalen DeBoer, right?
No, I didn't say there was. I was referencing Fire on Zook because I was saying like Twitter is filled with Alabama fans that are just Fire Kalen DeBoer. You have some people changing their accounts to Fire Kalen DeBoer.
Okay, here's why. Alabama fans need to understand something. They are never, ever, 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 ever going to be like they were under Nick Saban. And I know that's not some incredible piece of knowledge, Caleb. I mean, I know you know that. I mean, that was a once-in-a-generation run. But it's never, ever going to be to the point where Kirby Smart wins multiple championships. He's got 2 in the bag. He might win another 1 or 2, but don't expect 6 or 7. I would even be if I put the over-under on Kirby Smart at 1.5 championships, would you take national titles for the rest of his career? Would you take the over or the under?
Oh, I take the under. I would take the under on that.
I would too. And here's why. Here's the way things used to work in Tuscaloosa. All right. We're going to come out there and please hit the like button, by the way. Please hit the like button. We appreciate that. And if you haven't subscribed, do that. Here's the thing. Here's the way it used to work at Alabama. We're going to beat the brakes off of you with our starters in the first half, right? And then coming out, we might have our starters go out there and just so they go through the usual routine of being ready in the second half, they might play a drive. But what happens? Second string comes in, right? And then what happens? Majority of the games. I'm talking about 2/3 of the games now. And then what happens? Fourth quarter, third stringers come in. Okay. That means those third stringers who were tied to that scholarship and couldn't leave would eventually get experience and be a standout player when it was Alabama's time to reload. Guys, that is not going to ever happen at any school again, ever. Only possibility is if somebody before this salary cap, if there's not a salary cap, if somebody like Phil Knight just said, and he's a bad example because Nike does business with other schools, but if somebody said, I'm going to spend $1 billion, that's the only way, because I'm telling you, you're not going to have depth anymore. Squirrel White, a guy that's undersized, even though he made plays as a freshman, you target him to be your slot receiver replacing Jalen Hyatt for the next 2 or 3 years. Boom, he's gone. Because either his shoulder was mishandled or he just didn't like it, or for whatever reason, he's gone. Caleb, you are not – I mean, the Downs kid who went to Ohio State, Trevor Etienne, who transferred to Georgia. Guys, it's not going to happen again. You're not going to see any sort of Alabama run. Now, that's logical, right, Caleb? But
1,000% logical.
Yes. What is fan short for?
Fanatic.
Right. Alabama fans aren't going to be okay with that. I honestly predict that you're going to see Alabama run through Kalen DeBoer. He's going to feel unappreciated, and they're either going to fire him or he's going to leave, and then they're going to replace him with a dodo bird because they're not going to be able to go out and get a guy because they ran off Kalen DeBoer, who's a very good coach. I think this could be the beginning of a run of Alabama coaches not seen since the Mike Price, Mike Dubose days.
Are they then going to go the route of what they did in the 80s with Bear Bryant, where they're going to say, you know what, we need to find someone who once came into contact with Nick Saban? You know, maybe he accidentally stepped in Nick Saban's piss on the sidewalk.
I was a little surprised that they didn't do that this time around, weren't you? Like they didn't.
I think
Mario Cristobal and Manny Diaz. I'm not saying they're better than Kalen DeBoer, but I was a little surprised they didn't do it this time.
No, I think they're very aware of their history and how badly they screwed up trying to find a Bear Bryant replacement, a protege for so many years after Bear Bryant. All right,
you knocked that initiative that they did, but they did win a championship with Gene Stallings, who's about as Paul Bear Bryant as I can imagine without a drinking brawl.
No, that's true. They did. As a matter of fact, it's funny that people say, "Oh, Alabama's so overrated if you take away their 2 amazing head coaches." Okay, take away every school's 2 best coaches. You know what I mean? Like, none of them have success. Alabama, their 3rd best head coach has a national championship. Their 4th best head coach has national championships, and their 5th best head coach has a national championship. So you take away Bear Bryant and Nick Saban, take away every school's top 2 coaches. Alabama still may be the best program of all time, funny enough. And that's including 2 generational runs. Okay, so here's the issue. And so you think Kalen DeBoer is going to be run out of town. Now, I think this.
When I say run out of town, I don't mean necessarily fired. I mean, he might deal
He's not
with
going to like the lack of appreciation he's got.
Right. Like Kevin O'Neal. To make
Fair
it
enough, even though Kevin O'Neal actually never had a winning season at Tennessee.
I know, but everybody likes him, and he just bolted in the middle.
I mean, it's funny that he gets so much credit for, and it's funny that Jared Green gets no credit for those teams because they're like, "Oh, Kevin O'Neal built it." I'm like, "Yeah, but he didn't win with it." So, okay, just wanted to point that out. And Buzz Peterson didn't win with it either. All right, so to Kalen DeBoer's point, to Kalen DeBoer's defense, let's talk about the situation he was in this year because I want to bring this up. Guys, I said to you in January of last year, in March of last year, when he stayed committed to Jalen Milroe, I said Alabama's in trouble this year because I said, not that Jalen Milroe is not a college quarterback. He's certainly not an NFL quarterback, but I said he can be a college quarterback. But Dave, did I not say he's a horrible fit for Kalen DeBoer's system? Because Kalen DeBoer's offense requires you to go through every single progression on scanning the whole field and then making a decision. Jalen Milroe is a first read and run guy.
Okay, but Caleb, I'm not arguing with that. That's logical. But I don't think the fans are going to swallow that. I don't think they're going to be okay with that.
All right, but what I'm saying is I think now with Jalen Milroe bolting for the NFL, as if any Alabama fan is sad to see him go, spoiler alert, they're not. Okay. I think Kalen DeBoer kept him in the same reason Josh Heupel kept Joe Milton the start of last year, which was let me stay afloat this year with this quarterback who's not a fit for my system because I want to keep the team together. And then let me go for somebody else, and then I'll go with Nico the year after. I think Kalen DeBoer's now like I can get my quarterback in there. I think now because expectations have dipped to a certain degree, I think Kalen DeBoer is going to have a very, 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 very great year next year at Alabama. I think they're a major threat. And I do think the pleasant surprise of that is going to buy him even more time. Now,
what does he have to do? Okay, and let's note that Alabama has the 2nd highest rated recruiting class. Okay, so he's done a good job, and
he's done everything right.
Well, except for making I wonder if people would have viewed him differently if he just makes the college football playoff, if there's a 1-game difference there. But nevertheless, coming into this season, you think they're a threat. You think they're going to be good. But what do they have to do to make Alabama fans happy? Let me throw this one at you first. Make the college football playoff. Everybody happy? Everything copacetic in Tuscaloosa?
Yes, actually, I think they are.
I don't think
we're
so.
happy.
I
think Alabama. Okay,
we can agree to disagree. Let me finish the exercise. Okay, so obviously you think if they make the college football playoff and win 1 game, then everything's copacetic in Tuscaloosa. I don't think so. I think and I remember the 80s. You don't, but I remember how Alabama fans were in that time after Paul Bear Bryant. I think this is on a major downhill slide for a generation. And I think Kalen DeBoer is going to feel unappreciated and cruise eventually. And then you're not going to be able to hire a great coach. Let's be honest. They went out and hired one of the best coaches that you could. They chose who they wanted and they got him. But if it goes south with Kalen DeBoer, and it very well might, I just don't see this working out for Alabama long term.
All right, let me bring up, because I hear the Bear Bryant comparison a lot. Let me bring up something kind of apropos for that. In the 80s, let's bring this up real quick. Bear Bryant was the coach at Alabama for a good bit longer than Nick Saban was the coach at Alabama. Nick Saban was there for 17 years, 18 years. Bear Bryant was there for 25 years. A 7-year difference is a long time. I think even you would agree with that, Dave, right?
Yes. I would agree.
On top of that, in Alabama in the 80s, people didn't live nearly as long as they live today. Now, the reason that's relevant is because there were probably very few people alive who remembered Alabama football before Bear Bryant. There were Alabama fans at that point, okay? There's a lot of Alabama fans today that remember Alabama under Mike Shula and remember Alabama under Mike Price almost, never even coaching a game, and remember Mike DeBoer and remember not being able to beat Philip Fulmer. There's still to this day a genuine hatred of Philip Fulmer in Alabama, and that's all based on stuff that happened way before Nick Saban got there. So there's a lot of Alabama fans that remember those days. They're rational enough to know that they're not going to repeat the Nick Saban move. And I now maybe the younger ones, maybe the bandwagon ones aren't, but I do think the Alabama core is, many of them do remember a significant, I would say 75% of Alabama fans, they remember pre-Nick Saban very well and remember the trauma of that. Just like this, I'll give you another one. Tennessee for a minute. Tennessee fans aren't going to forget the decade of dysfunction for a long time. Okay. Josh Heupel could win 17 national championships in 18 years, but they're not going to forget 2008 to 2021, that easily. And I think that another good example would be Philip Fulmer. Why did Tennessee, even after things slid so much under Fulmer, why did fans wait so long until they finally wanted him gone? I think a lot of people kind of remember the early Johnny Majors years, did they not? And they thought, you know what? There were some fans, there were quite a few fans at Tennessee that were very aware of how bad it could get. Were they not? When Fulmer was fired?
When Fulmer was fired?
Let's take 2005, before Fulmer, the first losing season Fulmer had when he went 5-6. Most Tennessee fans, the overwhelming majority, still wanted them to stick with Fulmer because most Tennessee fans remembered the early 80s when Tennessee was painting the rock saying we made a major mistake.
Yeah, you and I may remember that a little bit differently. I thought it was maybe 60-40. People wanted Fulmer to stay. I thought it was pretty close to even up. And then I thought when they threw Lane Kiffin out there, young, good-looking guy, offensive mind, Southern Cal shine. I didn't mean for that to rhyme. I think that it was more like 90% were happy they made the change.
I agree with that with the Lane Kiffin move. I think, by the way, that was actually, let's call it what it is. The Lane Kiffin move was about seeing Urban Meyer, flashy Florida, winning everything. They're like, Tennessee fans are like, we want our own Flash at our own school, pretty much.
And Lane played Tennessee is why, people want to blame Mike Hamilton. The reason that Philip Fulmer got fired during the season is because Lane Kiffin. He feigned an agreement with Washington, and he was never going to go there. But that's exactly why Mike Hamilton felt like he had to make a move so that he could go ahead and get things in place so that Lane didn't take the Washington job.
And Monty Kiffin was,
I'm not sure
by the way,
that's a fact.
Well, also, I remember his introductory press conference as defense coordinator. Monty Kiffin was senile enough to accidentally admit that Lane wasn't going to go to Washington because Monty Kiffin admitted that he told Lane, I'm not going to follow you to Washington.
Oh,
you go there.
I don't remember that. I'll tell you about when they sent me to Tampa Bay. Quite perhaps the worst interview I've ever been a part of with Monty Kiffin or anybody else for that matter. Work Truck's all about trucks. Trucks that are actually available. Trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle now. Time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down. Has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracted about time. Work Trucks saves you time, less back and forth trips. Trucks pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for Work Trucks. Cargo vans, utility body trucks with an iPod, work bodies installed, pickup trucks, Work Trucks supplies vehicles to people just like you. Cranes, dump trucks. Man, no dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, you need to know WorkTrucksLLC.com. Work Trucks with an X, LLC.com. Don't risk chancing your future in business on the wrong piece of equipment. Proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. The perfect truck. Work Trucks, Clinton Highway, downtown Birmingham. WorkTrucksLLC.com. Here's my story about Monty Kiffin and the worst interview that I've ever been a part of.
Crazy Uncle Dave story.
Yes. We had this idea, along with the News Sentinel, that Tennessee is playing in the Outback Bowl. Is that right? No. I'm sorry. Tennessee was not playing in the bowl game because that was Philip Fulmer's final year. So if you remember, we all knew that Ed Orgeron and Monty Kiffin, that they were coming. They were actually even out on the recruiting trail before it was announced that they were coaches. And if you remember, it's like you knew it, but you didn't know it. So the News Sentinel sent me to Tampa Bay to interview Monty Kiffin, who's the defensive coordinator of the Bucs. Well, the Bucs at that point lost 5 games in a row after being in playoff contention. His defense was absolutely shredded the day I was there. I can't remember who they played, but the other team ran for like 220 yards, Caleb. And I have to interview him about possibly going to Tennessee. How do you think that went over?
Oh my gosh. I can only imagine. Did he go, I said, let me tell you something.
I tried to work in a question or two, and there are people standing around, and it was, I'm not going to talk about that. So we spent all that money and all that time and all that trip to basically get I'm not going to comment on that. That's how that went. But I got to go to the beach, so that was nice.
Oh, look at you. You got to go to the beach in Tampa.
All right. So Kalen DeBoer, for the record, will follow along here for just a second because I want to play a little bit of 4 Downs with you. 4 Downs brought to you by Friends at Work Trucks.
4 Downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
Downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right. So I'm going to ask you some questions about Kalen DeBoer to see where you think he stands. And Cooper Mays is always fantastic for calling the shots on the field and on the show.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe. Coop here. First down.
Kalen DeBoer will be the head coach at the University of Alabama in 2028.
Yes, I'm going to go there. Yes, I believe. I think he will.
I'm just going to go tell you there's no equation.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Kalen DeBoer will play in an SEC championship game.
Not if he's smart.
Oh, skip it? Okay. Well, you know what I'm saying. I mean, he'll win an SEC championship or play for it.
Sure, he'll play for one. And then if he wins it, I would want him fired anyway because we just saw what happened with Kirby Smart in Georgia. You win it takes a lot out of you. It's not smart to win the SEC title, guys.
Yeah, I have trouble arguing with that now.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
Kalen DeBoer will make more than one college football playoff as the head coach at Alabama.
Yeah, I think he'll make 2. I think he'll make 2 by 2028. So
I think he'll make 1, and he's going to feel unappreciated.
You know, I got to be honest before you go further on this. I think we're underselling how good of a job he did this past year with a quarterback that was not a good quarterback.
I agree. But again, it's that word fanatic. I mean, I think there are times where Philip Fulmer did a good job in assembling a team that had to deal with injuries. I could go back and look, but at the end of the day, it's just about wins and losses. And now it's about not making the college football playoff.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. Fourth down.
All right. Kalen DeBoer and Alabama make the college football playoff this upcoming year.
Yes. They're going to get the quarterback they want, and he's going to make the college football playoff. He dealt with the worst quarterback for his system in the history of mankind. And so, I mean, honestly, I think that early run of Alabama quarterbacks under Nick Saban would have all been better than Jalen Milroe Dade. I'm talking Greg McElroy and A.J. McCarron and Blake Sims and Jake Coker and old John Parker Wilson, baby. I think they all would have been better than Jalen Milroe in this offense.
By the way, Blake Sims coming up on the program later this week. No, I'm joking. Derek says the Tennessee football historical low will never go away. It's ruined our perception nationally. We became the best daytime soap opera on television, literally a laughing stock at this point. Can we push pin that? Because I would like to discuss that tomorrow as a topic, because I disagree with you, Derek, but you're one of our better posters. So that's a good take. I'm interested in that. And then do you agree with Derek? Give us give us a shout on the message board. We're engaged.
I'll say this, and I don't say this as a prisoner of the moment because I've studied all of Tennessee football history. Tennessee's low in the 2010s, 2008 to 2021 or whatever. There's not another low period that was that low in the football program. I mean, you can go back to the early majors years or the post Bowden Wyatt before Doug Dickey years. You know what I mean? You can go to a lot of different eras that were down. None were as down as that era. That's the most down era in Tennessee history.
I mean, it wasn't just down because of wins and losses. It was down because of the goofballs they hired and Shiano, and it just got embarrassing. But let's dig into that.
It was down. It was down because Jimmy Haslam was running the program. There, said it. I'm going to keep saying it.
I tend to agree with that. Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOK for 10% off. HOOK for 10% off. I've got a birthday present that I'm going to buy today, and I will be at Hound Dogs of Knoxville selecting that present for a Tennessee fan. And champions look good in orange. If you haven't been to their Knoxville location, you will be absolutely blown away at the selection they have. You can also pick up a Celebrate 98 book if you would like to do that as well. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. In just 2 minutes, we dig into this day in Tennessee sports history, and is NIL and the transfer portal out of control? Certainly hasn't helped the Vols. Stay tuned. Show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire prevention.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at nfc1.com or stop by any one of our 7.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
He tries very hard. The Dave Hooker Show.
All I know is when we win a game, it's a team win. When we lose a game, it's a team loss.
A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
I got to come back with the Trump dance right here because I got to celebrate, baby. I got to celebrate.
Wait, Caleb's bringing us back from break. Yeah, that would make you like my dream employee, because coming in and out of breaks is the work. All right, and making sure you fulfill all your sponsor obligations. I mean, that's the work. So, hell, if you want to take that over, Caleb, it's all you.
All I'm saying is,
what dance are you doing?
I don't know, but after securing the top pick in the draft on Sunday, my Titans, over the commercial break right there, just fired Rand Carthen, the GM. Thank the Lord. thank you, Amy Adams-Strunk, for firing Rand Carthen. He was a disaster, a terrible general manager. He traded up to get Will Levis and then gaslit all the fans for not liking the Will Levis pick. I love you for this, Amy Adams-Strunk. Now, you never should have fired John Robinson or Mike Gravel. Different story, but thank God. And we have the first pick in the draft. And by the way, the answer is Shedeur Sanders or bust. If we take Cam Ward, I will be mad.
That would be awesome if they got Shedeur Sanders. For the record, I don't completely understand what gaslit means. What is
gaslighting? Is making you sound crazy for believing your own eyes and your ears.
Oh, well,
so okay,
recently...
you ever in a fight with a relationship and like your partner says something that makes you mad, and then you're like, why did you say that? So then you lose your temper. Then your partner was like, I never said that. You're crazy for saying I would say something like that. And it's like, no, you actually did say that.
Well, I've recently been gaslit. This day in Tennessee sports history is brought to you by our friends at Double D Piping, and they are your best fire suppression needs experts, I should say. And it is time for this day in Tennessee sports history, brought to you by Double D Piping.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
This day in Tennessee sports history, what do you got?
On this day in Tennessee sports history, 12 years ago, Tennessee basketball got probably their first signature win of the Quanzo Martin era when on January the 7th, 2012, they beat 13th ranked Florida at home 67-56. That was a team that they were adjusting to the new style, and they had a very bad start, but then came back strong to finish second in the SEC. But the start was so bad they just missed the NCAA tournament when that happened. But yeah, so it was a big win over Florida during that time.
Yeah. This day in Tennessee sports history, again, is brought to you by our friends at Double D Piping. Now, NIL. Caleb and I have our 3:45 a.m. production meeting, and he brings this up, and he brings up, is NIL out of control? My initial reaction is this. Are we including transfer portal in that too? NIL and transfer portal.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
My first reaction was players deserve to get paid. Caleb, I don't want to go down that road because players deserve to get paid. But the more I thought about it, it was probably about 5:45 a.m., 2 hours after our 3:45 a.m. production meeting. I thought Caleb may be onto something. There's no salary cap. There's nothing to prevent a player from bolting because he stubbed his toe in practice. I would suggest 2 changes, but I think they're both illegal. Okay, so these are my changes, Caleb, and I know that they can't happen. Change number 1, there is a cap on NIL spending. Now, I do believe that'll happen because there's going to be a union, but you have to have a union first because it would be illegal to put a cap on potential earnings, right?
Correct.
Okay. My other is this. If you transfer after 1 season, you are held out, suspended for 4 games the following year. If you transfer under any other circumstance, you are suspended for 2 games the following year. Caleb, I know that's illegal. Okay. But philosophically, just to get, I don't want to take away a year like they used to. And I'll tell you what, the most dastardly rule ever, Caleb, was if you didn't release a player. Do you remember that rule? And they had to pay for their school for a year?
That was absolutely insane.
I mean, that's a financial penalty for an amateur athlete. I mean, how hypocritical can you be? But what do you think about that idea of suspending I hate the word suspension, holding out a player for 4 games if he just up and bolts after a year, because he needs to be given some incentive. And I'm thinking of this for the kids more than the stability of college football. There are times in life, guys, I'm in the middle of it. You got to tough things out. And these guys have to tough things out at times. Caleb, in this flip it, just jumping and leaving, Squirrel White might be Tennessee's leading receiver next year. But
what
he's
if
Florida State, which is just a bleep show?
What if, rather than doing something like that, what if we just went back to the old ways of saying, like, okay, you can transfer one time, no consequences, and the second time you got to sit out a year. But if you've graduated, like if you officially have your bachelor's degree in hand and you finish all your course credits, you can transfer wherever you want, no penalties whatsoever, because that's how it typically works, your graduate transfer. So you can transfer one time as an undergrad with no penalties whatsoever.
Here's what I want to penalize. I want to penalize a guy that goes to a school and he's just not comfortable. He's not happy after a year. Nobody's happy and comfortable after a year. Do you know what my first 2 semesters at Tennessee, I thought I can't make any money in this broadcasting thing, which I really want to do. So I'm going to take a business degree. Well, it was awful. I got a 0.92 GPA my first semester. I got a 1.14 my second semester. I hated it. It was awful. But you know what I did? I toughed it out. I went to community college, went back to Tennessee, decided that it was broadcasting that I was going to do no matter how much money I made. And I took that hit.
But see, Dylan brings up a great point, though. Like, what if the head coach leaves and after you were there for a year?
Okay, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. I'm totally cool with changing that one aspect. If a coach leaves, then you can leave. I'm totally.
See, I posed this question to Dave because Dave, you were off when I told him about the Cam Ward situation in Miami, where Cam Ward, for those who don't remember, opted out of the bowl game at halftime, and that's where this whole is NIL transfer portal out of control. But I posed the question to make my point that I think this is people are running around with their hair on fire as if something's wrong when nothing's wrong. And
something's wrong. Now, I mean, Caleb, you have no limit on money spending. You have no limit on amount of transfers. You can't.
It's time for some data.
Give me some data.
Which team, just guess, which team lost the most players to the transfer portal this offseason?
Oof. You would think it would be Florida State with the way they, bleeped up the season, but is it not?
And it's understandable why this team lost so many players. Washington State. They're one of the schools that lost their head coach. Okay, you lose your head coach, you're going to lose a lot of players. Guess how many they lost?
I'm going to say 8.
No. I mean, teams are losing way more than 8 to the transfer portal in an all season.
Okay, well, give me the number.
36.
36.
But wait, hold on. How many scholarship players are on a team on average in college football?
85. I mean, that's
100. 100. No, it's 105 now. It's 105.
Okay, I wasn't aware that they changed that. Are you sure that that's gone into effect?
No, I'm sorry. You're right. It's 85 on a team. 105 are allowed to be offered at any time. I apologize. You're right.
Okay.
You're right.
So you got 85 scholarship players, and but really, you practically have 105 because the walk-ons aren't walk-ons anymore.
Yes.
It's something.
So you practically have 105 players on a football team in 36 leagues. That means that the team that led the nation in players lost only lost a third of their players. So two-thirds of their team is back. In this era of NIL and the transfer portal, I don't think that's a big deal. I don't think player movement is a big deal. Dave, people are like, oh, it's like the NFL with no loyalty. No, you lose half your team in the NFL every year to year, okay? You're not getting that. Tennessee, and I bring this back to Tennessee for a minute. You keep bringing up Squirrel White. Outside of Squirrel White, who did Tennessee lose that fans had even come close to falling in love with?
Okay, but you can't do that, Caleb. I mean, what you're doing is you're taking away my strongest argument. My strongest argument is that there's no reason Squirrel White should have left. I mean, unless his shoulder injury was mishandled, which, I mean, that's something you can't do. he's the perfect example. So you can't take away.
So you lose one player that the fans were in love with, but you didn't lose, you didn't lose Nico. You didn't lose Mike Matthews, who came back. You didn't lose Boo Carter. You didn't lose, so many other people to the border. You lose one. So what? I mean, that's where I'm at. You're going to lose some guys. I think that's still a net win-win. If Squirrel White wants to take that risk, by the way, you say penalized after a year, that still wouldn't apply to Squirrel White. He's been in Tennessee's system for 3 years. Okay, so it's a win-win for everybody. You're allowed to make your decision. Here's what I would say, and here's where I would fix it. And this is kind of something that would be controversial because of the freedom that's granted players. But I think coaches should have to hold the scholarship for players unless they willingly enter the portal. I think a player should have to enter the portal for a coach to not be allowed to hold the scholarship for them.
Wait, you lost me on that one. You think they should have to hold the scholarship for them?
I think the coach should not be able to pull the scholarship from a player. I think a player should have to enter the portal before the coach, and then if the player enters the portal, the coach can do what he wants.
Okay, but Caleb, that sounds good, but that's not how it works. I mean, the way it works is, hey, Bobby, I don't think you're going to play a lot here. We love having you around. You're great on the grill, is what I hear from the fellas, and you're the nicest guy on the team, but you're not going to play. Might not be a bad idea if you transfer.
Okay, how about
what you're suggesting? You really can't legislate.
I think a player should be allowed to weigh keeping the education they have, because here's what happens: if you enter the transfer portal, there's a risk you don't get picked up, and then you never get a scholarship again. Right?
Good. You make that kind of decision. You're an adult.
No, I'm with you, Dave. I'm with you. What I'm saying is, if you choose not to, though, they shouldn't be allowed to pull your scholarship. Say Bobby over here decides, I know I could go somewhere else to play, but what if I don't get picked up? I'd rather stay here and just keep my scholarship and go get a degree. Josh Heupel then shouldn't be allowed to say, well, I'm pulling your scholarship anyway. That's what I'm saying. Now, maybe here's the compromise. How about this? How about Josh Heupel say that? How about we set this up? The school has to honor the scholarship, but Josh Heupel can cut him from the team and it won't count against his scholarship limits.
Well, they do that anyway. They do that with the
school honors the scholarship if you don't enter the portal.
Well, I mean, are you talking about a guy who just can't play college football, but you don't want to throw in the trash heap? Is that pretty much what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's done. It's called a medical red shirt. So, if you went to a guy and you just said you can't play, and he said, "Well, that's fine because I never really liked football, but my dad made me play." Yeah,
Josh Heupel can then say, "Well, let's just say you twist your knee and you can never play again."
He kicks him in the leg and say, "You get a medical red shirt." That's the way that works out. That's why a lot of people don't know this, but Josh Heupel has a baseball bat actually behind his desk at all times. So that's his medical red shirt bat.
His medical red shirt bat. Just whack him in the leg.
Yeah, you're out of here, Bobby. All right. I mean, I don't think you can legislate what you're saying. But I'm not ripping you because I don't think you can. I think what I suggested was illegal. So we're both basically suggesting law breaking on this program. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Coming up on the program, we'll have the stat of the day. I've decided where I'm going to give away a book every day. So you just figure out how to do it during the break. We went over to our 3:45 a.m. production meeting, but I think Caleb was out partying because it was a snow day, and he really didn't bring anything to the table at our meeting this morning as far as the way.
What?
Yeah, what? Is that not accurate?
Oh, my Lord. It is snowing where I am.
Oh, Lord. Peak IV Hydration, South Knoxville and Sevierville. Can we drop that link into the chat? Because you can hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV Hydration. PeakIVHydration.com. They have the patches you can order online, and they are phenomenal. I like the energy patch, but they've got the rejuvenate, hydrate patch as well. I don't drink, but I've been told the day after you take one of those, hangover, schmangover. Quality Tire Pros. By the way, that Hangover 3 was a bad idea. Quality Tire Pro serving
Two is a bad idea.
It was doable. Quality Tire Pro serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brakes, alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. QualityTirePros.com. Tell Bo that Dave Hooker and Off the Hook Sports said hello. Best sequel ever. Discuss amongst yourselves. And then I will we'll make that a poll question. I'm going to go ahead and tell you the top two, and it's not close, are Godfather 2 and The Empire Strikes Back. Those are
I
the
am
two
a Star Wars huge nerd, and I'm
no, don't tell me. Tease it. The show represented, I didn't know that, but I'm excited about that. May the force be with you. Hit the like and subscribe button. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Back in 2 minutes. Best sequel ever, but more importantly, we tend to talk sports on this thing. And was Tennessee's defense overrated last year? We'll be joined by John Adams. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Sports.
I've been in business actually 19 years this year. I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. Dave Hooker here for Dynasty Pools and Spas, your home for the best spas and everything you need to jump right in. Relaxing, therapeutic, absolutely. But what sets Dynasty Pools and Spas apart from others is that you get everything with any spa purchase. You get the cover lift, the steps, delivery, and chemicals. When Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers your spa from their Athens location within 125 miles, you'll get your own personal hydrotherapy spa. Mention me, Dave Hooker, or Off the Hook Sports, and get $500 off your top quality new spa. Dynasty Pools and Spas, just off the Athens exit. Drop in and receive a free gift from Off the Hook Sports, Dynasty Pools and Spas. Mention Off the Hook Sports for a drop-in prize and that $500 discount, Dynasty Pools and Spas. To check out some of the Dynasty Spa models and to buy spa chemicals, go to dynastypoolsandspas.com.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, banksjones.com.
He tries very hard. The Dave Hooker Show.
All I know is when we win a game, it's a team win. When we lose a game, it's a team loss.
A presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Touchdown! Unbelievable!
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Going back to my earlier point, Caleb, the abrupt end to the football season, the fact that you didn't have a couple more weeks to enjoy football, how big of a problem do you think that is for not only Tennessee, because I do think it's affected their fandom in basketball and in everything, but I mean, how big of a problem do you think that is moving forward? I'm curious on the message board. I mean, Suddenly, I mean, just imagine that. Imagine you're a huge Dallas Cowboys fan, and then suddenly the season was 2 weeks shorter than you're used to. Because, I mean, a bowl game was all but a planned game. I mean, Tennessee was at least going to make a bowl that would be played on the 30th, 31st, 1st, 2nd, whatever. And now that just went away.
Yeah, hence the reason there never should have been 12 or 16 teams in a playoff. 8 was the magic number. And you start the playoff on like New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, like for the bowl games during that time. Just started in the quarterfinals. There's no reason to do this first round with 12. My case was always for a playoff, Dave. You know how a playoff would have been perfect? You know where I would have gotten fully on board with the playoff?
Yes.
Go back to the old conferences, not this gigantic SEC and Big Ten of like 18 teams. Bring back the old Pac-12, like, the Power 5. Fair enough, Power 5 conferences?
Mm-hmm.
My playoff format would have been do the old bowl tie-in. So Big Ten, Pac-12 in the Rose Bowl, SEC in the Sugar Bowl, ACC in the Orange Bowl. The Power 5 champions all get an automatic playoff bid. The top group of 5 teams, like of the lower levels, just to shut them up, that one top team gets an automatic bid, okay? And then 2 wild cards. And you disperse them through the 6 bowl games that we're talking about, through quarterfinals, semifinals, and national title. I think that would have made it the best. I think that was the best format to do. But this like early round of December the 21st, I'm not crazy about. The other thing I would have done is all conferences should go back to the other way I would have done it too is no conference championship games. All conferences go back to 12 teams. Every conference has 12 teams. You play every team in your conference in a round robin, and then you play 3 non-conference games, and the college football regular season ends in like the second week of December. So every team plays 14 games. And then you got a break, you got the playoff, and you call it a day from there. That's how I would have done it.
Time for the stat of the day. Stat of the day brought to you by our good friends at Dynasty Pools and Spas. All you have to do is stop by their location and say, hey, Dave Hooker sent me, and they're going to hook you up with a Off the Hook Sports t-shirt, or they'll hook you up with a Celebrate 98 book. Just stop by and say hello. If you decide to buy a spa, everything is included, and you get $500 off for mentioning Off the Hook Sports. The stat of the day coming up. Dave Hooker here for Dynasty Pools and Spas, your home for the best spas and everything you need to jump right in. Relaxing, therapeutic, absolutely. But what sets Dynasty Pools and Spas apart from others is that you get everything with any spa purchase. You get the cover lift, the steps, delivery, and chemicals. When Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers your spa from their Athens location within 125 miles, you'll get your own personal hydrotherapy spa. Mention me, Dave Hooker, or Off the Hook Sports, and get $500 off your top quality new spa. Dynasty Pools and Spas, just off the Athens exit. Drop in and receive a free gift from Off the Hook Sports, Dynasty Pools and Spas. Mention Off the Hook Sports for a drop-in prize and that $500 discount, Dynasty Pools and Spas. To check out some of the Dynasty Spa models and to buy spa chemicals, go to dynastypoolsandspas.com. Of the day, Caleb, what do you got?
I mentioned it earlier, but I want to go ahead and add it and drop it as an official stat because yesterday marked the 5th straight week Tennessee basketball was ranked number 1 in the AP poll. That surpasses the old record of 4 straight weeks, which was set in 2019 with Grant Williams and company. So 5 weeks to 4 weeks, and that 4 weeks one surpassed the original record of just 1 week when Tennessee was number 1 in the nation for 1 week after beating Memphis in 2008, lost 3 days later to Vanderbilt on the road.
Okay, I'm gonna give you an addition problem. What's the word?
A math problem?
Yes, a math problem. Are you ready?
I'm ready for some math.
Okay.
The math ain't mathin'.
John Adams plus new computer equals.
Boomer.
It'll be on Thursday. Brought to you by Neubert Collisions. John's struggling with a new computer that the News Sentinel gave to him. So we will get him on later this week on Thursday. I called him during the break, and it went something like this. Hey, John, where are you? We don't see you. You coming on? He goes, probably not. And I said, why? I got a new computer, and it's doing all this Fun stuff. All right, we'll have John later on. Brought to you by.
By the way, can I point this out real quick?
Yes.
I'm going to defend my generation real quick because boomers come at millennials all the time saying, y'all don't know how to use tools. You don't know how to do like manual labor. I'm like, yeah, but y'all don't know how to open a PDF file. So it's like, it's, you know, everybody has their skills.
Okay. All right. Well, I just, why did I get a shot?
No, I wasn't throwing a shot at you. You're a Gen Xer.
Okay. Well, I can't open a PDF file, so it felt like a shot.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So you're like a boomer at that point.
I mean, literally, stuff that should take the average person 5 minutes on a computer takes me roughly an hour and 8 minutes. All right. Bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank. Tennessee's defense was overrated this year. What say you? Bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial.
All right. Tennessee's defense, overrated? Bank on it. What say you, Caleb?
I think we have to say they were overrated now. And the biggest reason, and by the way, since he's not on, I'm going to shout him out. John Adams was the one who wrote about this, about how he thinks he overrated Tennessee's defense. That's kind of where we got the idea for this. So I encourage you all to read his column on the Knoxville News Sentinel. I think Tennessee's defense cashed in on one of the easier schedules in the SEC. And the first question that I had first asked was, is Jermon McCoy overrated because he hadn't faced any good quarterbacks? And that seems like it was the case. Because let's be honest, Dave. Let's start with the secondary real quick. Let's start with Jermon McCoy, who we call a superstar lockdown corner. The only two times all year that we said, man, Jermon McCoy had a real bad game was when he faced Georgia and Ohio State. That's also the only two good passing games he faced all year. So,
okay,
that's kind of a concern if you think about it.
Okay, I 100% disagree with you. I don't think that they were overrated. Now, you know me, I tend to lean on the eye contest a little too much, but I see a bunch of all SEC players out there, McCoy, Pierce, maybe not elite tackles, but a lot of them. I think the offense let them down. This defense was built to get after the passer with a lead. And the offense never really, except against lower level opponents, hit that level that they could go out, step on an opponent's throat, and be up by 21 points in the first 25 minutes of the game. They never hit that. And they didn't come out in the second half most oftentimes against quality opponents and put the other teams back against the wall. Now, I don't think this is a subpar defense. I don't think this is an overrated defense. I'm just going to tell you that I think this defense was not suited to the style of offense that Tennessee put on the field. You want to blame somebody for this defense? It's not the defensive coaches. It's not the defensive players. It's the Joey Halsleys of the world, the Kelsey Popes of the world, and Josh Heupels of the world that didn't put the type of offense that Tennessee fans have become accustomed to on the field. The 12 personnel, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, that's a change up, and I understand you've got to do it, play two tight ends because the other stuff isn't working. But why isn't the other stuff working? Why is Mike Matthews, and I wrote about him on offthehooksports.com, why is Mike Matthews playing early against Kent State, having success, and again against Vanderbilt? I mean, to me, that just screams, oh, let's get him excited about the season. Let's throw him a cookie, and then let's throw him another cookie at the end of the year so that he doesn't transfer. Caleb, this offensive coaching staff should be ashamed of what they put on the field this year, and it undermined the defense. Sorry.
Yeah, but
the whole question is up now. Did the offense undermine the defense, or was the defense overrated?
But here's the thing. The defense is going to have to start winning games in this system. And the reason is we're underrating how teams have adjusted to Heupel's offense, which is the high safety. I mean, they were playing the high safety.
Okay, but I'm not underrating that. And I see where you're going here, Caleb, but I'm not underrating that. I'm being critical of the fact that Heupel didn't see that Josh Heupel didn't see that coming. You're right. You're right. Defenses have caught up, but you got to do something else.
Yeah, but see, with the way to adjust is kind of somewhat what Heupel did at times. He didn't do it against Ohio State, which was a mistake, which was commit to the run game. But Dave, you and I both know this. If you commit to the run game, you're not going to get those big leads early that force the offense to throw the ball on the other side. So, I mean,
okay, but where's the creativity? I mean, Tennessee did a lot of, especially in goal line situations. You know, you had the Princeton Bant plays. You had, I just didn't see a lot of creativity, and I think that's why they're bringing in Landry Jones. I think they need an influx. And listen, if I'm Kelsey Pope and Joey Halsey and Alec Ablin, I don't feel particularly confident in the fact that I'll have a job in 2026 if things don't change drastically. As a matter of fact, you know, it would be the wrong way to do somebody, but I mean, is there a possibility that after this second signing period that you could make a coaching change? I know Kelsey Pope's still out there recruiting actively, but I mean, that better be his worst year of his career, or he's not going to be a successful college football coach.
This may be a topic to discuss after this one, actually. Should Tennessee make a staff change? But let's stick with the defense first, because I kind of may want to reroute and talk about that, because that's an intriguing one, Dave, honestly. And but sticking with the defense real quick, Dave, I test on this. We said all year this is the best. I mean, Dave, we were comparing this defensive line to the 2001 defensive line. Well, I'm sorry, but after Georgia and Ohio State, you can't say that. Let's be honest, Dave. Do you think John Henderson and Albert Haynesworth would have let Georgia manhandle them the way Ohio State manhandled Amari Thomas and Omar Norman Lott and all them?
No, but you are talking about two of the most elite defenders in Tennessee history. Now, we thought James Pierce would be of that ilk, but I'm still not exactly sure why they used him how they did, and that was dropping into coverage. And we made the excuses. Oh, he's still getting the pressures. He's getting the pressures. But at some point, I mean, don't you turn him into a guy that's just allowed to roam free to some extent? I go back to I'm not comparing him to Lawrence Taylor, but the way Lawrence Taylor played is he very rarely had any responsibilities. And they basically played 10 on 11. To me, Pierce was going to be that type of player where he would have some freedom. I don't understand, for the love of all that's holy, why he's ever in a 4-point stance.
Yeah, but the thing is, James Pierce is a little. Lawrence Taylor could whip any block possible. James Pierce can't whip any. I almost said James Taylor. Listen to me. James Pierce can't whip any block possible. Okay, it requires. Given his frame, he always required the interior line to command some attention. Okay, and against Ohio State, they didn't. All right, I mean, I got to be honest. I was high on Amari Thomas, Omar Norman Lott, Elijah Simmons, Jackson Moy, all these guys. They were non-existent against the two elite teams they played talent-wise this year. Let me be fair. There were 3 elite teams they played talent-wise, because Alabama's actually elite talent-wise. They just had the wrong quarterback throwing the ball, okay? And so I didn't give them a lot of credit for the Alabama game, because Jalen Milroe, what you proved is if you can get a semblance of pressure and you play the high safety, Jalen Milroe was garbage. And that's what Tennessee did. So, but when you play a good quarterback like Carson Beck, or a good enough quarterback like Will Howard, all of a sudden it really exposes the mediocrity of the interior line. And so I'm going twofold here. Jamal McCoy's not a lockdown corner like I thought he was, because let's be honest, Jeremiah Smith absolutely torched him. I mean, that he was out of Jamal McCoy's league. And
have you ever heard the term in football, down on his dauber? Hope that's not a dirty term. I don't think it is. Got his dauber down. Have you ever heard that? Like a wasp has a stinger, and I think it's a dauber. Maybe somebody can help me. I thought that McCoy got his dauber down.
You think he just got his will broken, basically?
I hate to say will broken, but I think he's like, hell. I mean, this is not working out. I think he's a better player than what we saw against Ohio State. I think everybody has.
But we also said he struggled against Georgia. The only two elite teams he played.
Okay, well, that's fair. So we're saying Jermod McCoy's overrated. We're saying James Pierce is overrated.
No, James Pierce is exactly what we thought he was, which is he needs the interior to command some pressure.
Okay. At the end of the day, and you can let's define successful career as over 3 years in the NFL. How many players on this football team will have successful careers in the NFL? Over 3 years is when you start to get, I think, part of your pension. 5 years is when you get it all. So let's say
on the team or the defense?
On the defense.
All right. I think Aaron Carter will be successful.
I think there's six. I think there's at least six guys on this defense that will have successful NFL careers, and
that will get an NFL pension, is what you're saying.
The full pension's 5 years. I don't know that they quite make it that far, but I'm defining it by playing 3 years or more in the NFL. And I think you will have six guys from this defense play 3 or more years in the NFL. And here's who I think they are. I think they're James Pierce. I think they're Jermod McCoy. I think they're Amari Thomas. I think this one will surprise you. I think Elijah Simmons, when he starts seeing the big dollars, is going to find a way to get healthier. I'm not questioning his toughness. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but he could make more money joining Boyz II Men and going on tour with them, given that voice.
Boyz II Men. And then as far as the other guys, I think it'll be a mixture of the Omar Norman Lotts, those type of guys. Arian Carter is going to play in the NFL.
I agree with you about Arian Carter.
Jeremiah Thielander is going to play in the NFL.
He's got a lot of work to do.
Well, I agree, but you wait and see. I mean, that guy's going to come on. That's one of the problems I have with Tennessee. I don't feel like they give enough reps to their second team based on people I've talked to in practice. So I think when they have an injury, it just completely falls off. And I think you've seen that in different situations, but in particular, I think you've seen that, Caleb, with the middle linebacker position. They put all their eggs in the Keenan Pili basket.
Oh, they did on that. I agree with you on that. And Keenan Pili got hurt twice, but I still kind of look at it like
I'm obviously that is my biggest projection.
But Dave, here's the thing,
right?
We still have to go over. You're defending the defense in terms of being good, and I think they were good. The problem is, okay, let's go back to Ohio State and Georgia real quick. I thought Tim Banks was just keeping some things vanilla versus Georgia for the college football playoff. I was wrong. He didn't have any complex blitz packages. He put everything on his front four being able to get pressure, and he didn't really mix it up much against Ohio State at all. And here's why we overrated the defense. We were comparing them to some of the greatest defenses of all time in Tennessee history. And you covered those Chavis defenses, Dave. Weren't there some years where Chavis didn't really have anything complex? He just knew that everybody was going to be able to shut down who they were facing in that moment. And he didn't have that many blitz packages.
There was only one moment in his career that he had something complex. I think you're being overly nice. I mean, it was the Florida game 2001.
Well, he mixed up
he had the Prowler package.
But he would mix up his linebacker blitzes, wouldn't he? A good bit. Or was that the players that did that themselves?
I've talked to NFL scouts. They said that was about the most simplistic defense that's ever been run, and it was all about talent. I mean,
okay.
I'm just telling you from NFL scouts and coaches that I've talked to that watched him because they were evaluating his players, and they're like, other than that Prowler package, which could have won Tennessee and SEC a national championship and did beat Florida and push Steve Spurrier out the door. So I'm not shortchanging him for that. But other than that Prowler package, you go back and watch, there are guys standing up, walking around because they knew Steve Spurrier wouldn't run the ball. Okay, other than that, it's the most simplistic defense in the history of man, and there are probably 100 other defensive coaches that were around in 1998 that could have got a similar type of response from that group.
Okay, fair enough then.
Really harsh, but that's what I believe, and that's what I've been told.
But that furthers my point. We were comparing this defense to those. Tim Banks, he's proven in the past he's not simplistic when he doesn't want it, when he needs to be complex. He did it in 2022, dialing up different blitz schemes. He chose not to do that this time, putting the faith in the talent And the 2 times they played elite teams, they got beat doing it. The 98 team you just pointed out was super simplistic.
I will say this. I think the defense is still elite. I'm not willing to say it's overrated. But if I could go back and delete some YouTube comments that we made comparing it to
98
Ainsworth and Henderson and the 98 defense, we need to walk that back. But you could still be an elite defense and not be as good as the 98 group. I mean, they were incredibly elite.
Yes, but we compare this defensive line, you're right, to Ainsworth and Henderson. And I go back and look and I'm like, do you know what's funny about the 01 defense, Dave, is the only decent linebacker on that team was Dominic Stevenson. Like, that was a bad linebacker core that year.
Which year? 99?
2001.
Oh, yeah, 2001.
I mean, Eddie Moore and Keon Whiteside, no disrespect to them, but they weren't NFL linebackers. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, is that the year they lost Jason Mitchell and let him go out there and play on a 20?
No, that was 05. That was 05. That actually was a good linebacking core because that was Jason Mitchell, Omar Gaither, and Kevin Simon. But like, no, I'm talking about 01. The only good linebacker on 01 was Dominic Stevenson. Everything on that offense came down to John Henderson and Albert Hainsworth, who, by the way, turned Will Overstreet into an NFL draft pick. Again, no disrespect to Will Overstreet, but I don't think he's an NFL draft pick if he's not playing next to John Henderson and Albert Hainsworth. But we compared this defensive line to that.
Well, can you go back and pull all those YouTube clips and let's pretend we never said that? And
No, you know what I'm actually going to do, Dave, just for fun, because people do this. I'm actually going to write a column on all the dumb things we said about Tennessee this year, going into the year, and all the things we got wrong.
I don't know that I like the thought of that.
Because we're not Skip Bayless and Stephen A or anybody like that. We don't sit there and double down on when we're wrong. What we do is we adjust to what we see, and then we acknowledge if we were wrong. And I think sometimes we should acknowledge if we were wrong.
Okay, how about this? With the right offense, this defense that Tennessee fielded in 2024 was good enough to win a national championship, yay or nay?
Yes.
Maybe that's how we determine.
With the 2022 offense. How about that? The 2022 offense, this team's winning a national title.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I don't even think they necessarily need the 2022 offense. I think somewhere in between would have worked. I mean, what they had as a whole, what would you grade the 2022 offense? A+, right?
Yeah, A+, definitely.
Okay. As a whole, what would you grade the 2024 offense?
B-.
Yeah, I was going to go C+.
I can't go C+ because they had the best player in the nation, maybe, in Dylan Sampson.
Ooh, okay.
Who, by the way, proved himself to be better than Ashton Genty. Just want to point that out.
Okay, but if they said at the beginning of the year that they're going to go Peyton Lewis instead of Dylan Sampson, do we not think that Dylan Sampson or Peyton Lewis would have been pretty close?
Yes, I think Peyton Lewis would have been close. But like Dylan Sampson, we saw Peyton Lewis against Ohio State, and Dylan Sampson's a better running back. And by the way, this is rerouting. When I go down the list of dumb things I said, Dylan Sampson not a starting back in the SEC, that's at the top. Okay, that's at the top. That is right there with people, Dave, with people you covered in 2001. Remember everybody who said Travis Stevens wouldn't be a starting running back in the SEC? And by the way, I still maintain to a degree Travis Stevens was very much a product of that 01 offensive line more than anything else.
But, no, I agree, but I had more doubts about Travis Stevens than I had about Dylan Sampson this year. So I don't think you were surely to goodness you didn't think that you didn't have the same concerns you had headed into that 2001 season with Stevens. I mean, there were a lot of people who thought he wouldn't even make it through September.
Oh, see, I was 13 reading magazines at the time. So I wasn't analyzing the team.
That's fair. And but no, there were a lot of people that thought that he wouldn't make it through September. So I didn't ever have Dylan Sampson on that concern level. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. So what are we doing next? You just tell me you want to reroute a little bit?
Yeah, you brought up a great question, so I kind of want to ask, let's ask if Tennessee should make a staff change.
Okay. 2 minutes. We're not going to make any friends next because I feel pretty strongly about this. Show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
My apologies for being scatterbrained. I wanted to do this. I think it'd be fun. General Ursus has never seen The Godfather. Holy cow. Have you seen The Godfather?
I actually have not, but I know I need to. I know I need to. Don't judge me too harshly, Dave.
Caleb's not going to be in the program anymore. Caleb's gone. He hasn't seen The Godfather. Caleb. Okay, there's a bonus in this for you if you watch The Godfather, but you have to watch it twice because the first time they use so many Italian names that it's really hard to keep track of who they're referring to. But the second time you watch it, you're like, it all clicks. You have to do the same thing with Godfather 2. So what I'm asking you is to commit 16 hours to watching movies because they're about 4 hours a piece. So 2 hours. All right, so 2 movies to watch them twice. Will you commit to 16 hours of movie watching with you and the lovely wife? I'll tell you what I'll do. If you will do this, then I will even pick up a to-go dinner for you guys. You tell me where you like to eat, and then how about it's been a crazy few weeks. So how about a little Calhoun date night on me? How's that?
Oh, I would really appreciate that.
But you've got to watch the movie twice.
Fine, I can do that.
Don't come back and tell me, oh, wasn't that good? That's overrated. There's so many. I mean,
Dave has his own voices now.
I've got a new voice. I didn't get to see that. Hey, I'm going to see that.
Well, Dave, let me ask you this. Can I bring my point up first?
Yes.
If I'm going to do this about because we talked about because I'm a Star Wars nerd and we talked about Empire Strikes Back, and for 99% of my life, I have agreed with you that Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars movie. But then I watched a video review on every Star Wars movie. And by the way, I watched them all, including the prequels that were horrible. And by the way, the prequels now look great compared to what J.J. Abrams did to this godforsaken franchise with the recent sequels. Okay, those were horrible, even worse. However, someone brought up an issue with Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes Back is the football team that plays great in the first and fourth quarter, but plays like complete garbage in the second and third quarter. Empire Strikes Back has a very strong start. You know, the Battle of Hoth, they're trying to escape the planet and all that. Luke getting like mauled by the whatever creature that is. Everybody loves that. Has a strong end. Greatest twist in cinema history. I am your father, the lightsaber duel and all that. it's those two parts are so strong that everybody forgets how boring the middle of Empire Strikes Back is. And it's very boring in the middle. And if you actually watch a movie for flow, if you watch a movie for flow from beginning to end, A New Hope is better. The first Star Wars is better than the second. The original first Star Wars 77, A New Hope, is actually better than Empire Strikes Back. Nobody wants to admit that.
You have the ending. I am your father.
Yes,
I mean, that's what makes that. Yeah,
it's like exactly. Put it this way, you know what it's like? Okay, you know the Super Bowl upset that when the Giants beat the Patriots, the David Tyree play.
Yes,
legendary moment. But let's be honest, Dave, that was a really boring Super Bowl until that moment, wasn't it? It was one of those boring Super Bowls to watch.
Yeah, and that was one of the flukiest, luckiest plays of all time.
Got Eli Manning into the Hall of Fame.
All right. Tennessee has an incredibly young coaching staff. And there'll be a column up on Off the Hook Sports later today. Alec Eberle, this is your 2 for him as tight ends coach. He was elevated as an offensive analyst. Okay. Joey Halsley, elevated as a quarterback's coach to an offensive coordinator for the first time, replacing Alex Golesh, who went to South Florida. Kelsey Pope just finished year number 3 as a receivers coach, and he was elevated as an analyst. I don't think I'm going out on a limb to say that Josh Heupel has been overly cautious with his hires to keep things in-house. And I believe that Josh Heupel is insecure because of what happened at Oklahoma, and he lost that offensive coordinator position. And I think he's afraid to bring in multiple analysts. Now, he just lost Mackenzie Milton, who will be an assistant coach at Central Florida. And that's a guy he trusted as an offensive analyst. He brings in an offensive analyst in Landry Jones. Well, where did he play ball? Oklahoma. Who does he know well? Josh Heupel. But Josh Heupel is very proud of the fact that in press conferences, he doesn't tell you anything. He is very guarded, I believe, because of insecurities of what happened at Oklahoma. I believe if he doesn't adjust that, it's going to be his downfall. He has got to bring in fresh ideas. And I don't know if that's like Nick Saban did with Lane Kiffin as an analyst, if Landry Jones will fill that void. But to me, he probably doesn't even know as much about Josh Heupel's offense as Josh Heupel knows. We talked earlier about the lack of creativity. Where's the creativity supposed to come from when you only hire guys that coached under you and only know your system? I think this is a real problem. Does Tennessee need to make a staff change? Quite possibly. And to get a fresh set of eyes to come in. Nick Saban did it with Lane Kiffin. Other coaches have done it. It can go south. Philip Fulmer just tried to do it. Dave Clawson, and he ran something so totally different that the two never jived. But Caleb, a staff change, is this the time, or do you wait and see what this offensive crew can produce in 2025?
I'm still in a wait and see mode, but I do think they should do a staff change with the offensive system. Here's why they won't. You brought up Nick Saban. We've called Josh Heupel the modern day Steve Spurrier, and now we've laid out why he's not. However, you want to know where Josh Heupel and Steve Spurrier are very similar in one way?
How?
They are very confident in their abilities to do things, so they don't think they need anybody else. The only difference is Steve Spurrier actually had those abilities and didn't need anybody else. He did need it. You know, the Steve Spurrier never needed another mind in the room when he was coaching Florida, right? It was his mind.
You're 100% right. All he needed to have a successful program at the University of Florida was a guy named Charlie Strong. And that was the defensive coordinator. And Steve
Before
Spurrier,
Charlie Strong, Bob Stoops, too.
For Bob Stoops. But Strong, I think, was there the longest time. But with Strong, he was, it's a weird way to say it, but he was very fortunate that there were a bunch of backwards people that didn't want to hire an African-American coach. And I was told an African-American coach who was married to a white woman. And fortunately, there were so many backwards minds in hiring positions, that he got to keep Charlie Strong probably longer than he should have. Charlie Strong deserved a head coaching shot in the early 2000s, but he never got that.
Yeah. And by the way, not just
or the late 90s, excuse me. Go ahead.
Yeah, there was Charlie, and Steve Spurrier always had brilliant defensive minds. Because right, he got Charlie Strong. Before that, he got Bob Stoops. He also had Bob Pruitt, who became the Marshall head coach for a while. So you're right. All he needed was the right defensive coordinator at the time, but he knew it was his offense. I think Josh Heupel thinks that's all he needs.
Okay, well, he needs to look himself in the mirror and say, "I need more." Because
I agree.
There are two things that went on at Florida that aren't going on and will never go on at Tennessee. And one is that it's super easy to recruit right in your backyard. And two, Josh Heupel is never going to have Steve Spurrier's cocky nature, which I think brought in recruits as well. But the bottom line is Tim Banks is incredibly important. He's the most important assistant coach on the staff. But who's the most important offensive coach on the staff? Is it Kelsey Pope because he's out hitting the recruiting trail? Is it Halsley because he agrees with everything that Josh Heupel pushes his way? Or is it Alec Ablin? Tennessee's best offensive coach may be Alec Ablin. Look at what the tight ends did last year.
How about Darrell Sims, who was the new running backs coach and turned Dylan Sampson into a SEC Player of the Year? I mean, I don't know if he had anything to do with that, but
I have trouble giving running back just throughout my career. I have a lot of trouble giving running backs coaches an awful lot of credit.
Are you saying that Randy Sanders was not the brains behind Jamal Lewis and Travis Henry being great, Dave? Is that what you're suggesting?
Saying he recruited Casey Kloss. And I'm saying he recruited Arian Foster. Now, he was the coordinator at the time, but no, I do not think that just because a running back has a fantastic year, that it's oftentimes the running back coach is there to do two things. One, read keys pre-snap, and not give anything away with your footwork. I've seen, there are times, I don't know if you ever noticed this or recalled this, but there were times where you could tell it was Travis Henry, Travis Stevens, and who's the other one I'm missing?
Jamal Lewis, kind of the big dog.
Yeah. Jamal Lewis. There were times where you could tell where they lined up. If it was a running play or a passing play, they'd line up a yard closer to the line of scrimmage, so they could run block, so they could pass block. So you don't want to give away keys. But the other thing, not to get slowed down, but the other thing is pass protection. You teach those things, and you're pretty good. You should have a good running back. I don't think he taught Dylan Sampson to be ultra quick or ultra elusive or have ultra balance.
Can I say something about Josh Heupel that it's the first time I have to question his intellect a little bit, the way I do other coaches?
I mean, you can question anybody's intellect. I don't think we're dealing with geniuses here. I mean,
for Josh Heupel to be so confident in his system, when he's got assistants and staff members and a coaching tree scattered all across America and other people who run this offense, and not think that it would somewhat get figured out, really is concerning. It kind of reminds me of when Michael Lewis wrote Moneyball and Billy Beane, had built the Athletics into a playoff team and decided, I'm going to tell everybody my strategy in a book. And it's like, okay, but your advantage is nobody knows your strategy.
Well,
and I feel like Heupel's got that problem right now with his offense. Too many other people are running it.
Right. I don't think it's a question of necessarily his intellect. I think it's a question of his approach and what I lined out earlier. I think he's still a little bit insecure. Feels like the rug's going to get pulled out from under him. Feels like that somebody could run off with his offense. And let's be honest. Yeah, Alex Golesh already has.
And so is Lincoln Riley. And so is Jeff Levy. And so is now McKinnon. I mean, it's being spread out all over football. I mean, so for him to worry about that is stupid. People are going to run off with your offense. The question is, can you adjust? So here's the real truth. Getting back to the root of should they make a staff change? Yes, they need to replace Joey Halsley. He doesn't bring any creativity to Joey Halls. I'm not even saying Joey Halsey's a bad coach. I don't know if he is or not. But what I am saying is this. I don't think in that room, Joey Halsey says anything to deviate from Josh Heupel. And
no, I don't either. I don't think he stands up, pounds the table, and says that is simply not going to work. I don't either.
And that's the difference. And by the way, Dave, you covered, we just talked about the Fulmer years. It is kind of a Randy Sanders thing. It just didn't, you tell me, but my vibe from the outside following Tennessee during that time was that Randy Sanders just ran the offense Fulmer wanted him to run and kind of did what he was told, but didn't really take a stand on things. Is that a fair assessment?
You know what? Knowing Randy like I did, I feel like he would, and you got to remember he's a lot more experienced than Halsey. I feel like he would be much more apt to take a stand on something than Halsey, which may be a further indictment of Halsey. That's
a huge indictment. Because from my understanding,
you got to remember Randy and Phillip came up together. I don't think there was any point in which Randy was intimidated by Phillip. I think he would have said, here's the deal. Okay, we can't, this A-gap play isn't going to work. I don't think he would have a problem with that.
Yeah, but like it would, I mean, you even told me like Chavis and Cutcliffe would be in a fight over whether or not they want to use an athlete on offense and defense. But wasn't it once Sanders came along, it was, Chavis always won those battles, didn't he?
Right. That I'll give you that. I mean, do you want to deal with a guy that's in your face and a kind of rough around the edges to deal with, like John Chavis, when Randy Sanders is probably going to go say, okay, take Rashad Baker. Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com. Also want to thank our friends at Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates. Go to Sports Treasures TN on Facebook and follow them now. Also want to thank our friends at the UPS store, Hardin Valley, helping individuals, small businesses, wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated. The link is right down below. Support our sponsors. That's why we are here. The show represented by Banks & Jones. Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Derek says Joey's a yes man. You've got to decide at some point in your life if you think you've arrived. And if Joey Halsey thinks he's arrived, was he making $400,000 a year? He's an offensive coordinator in the SEC. That ain't bad, right? I mean, John Chavis was kind of content with that, being a coordinator. I mean, he always wanted to be a head coach, but he was kind of content with that. If he feels like he's arrived and he's just going to agree to everything and he's going to make $400,000 or $500,000 a year for 3 or 4 years, that sounds great. But in 3 or 4 years, you're going to be looking for another job. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire prevention.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
I got news. You want news?
I'm ready.
We have a major studio sponsor that's coming up that I'm so excited about. And I will ask you this. Caleb is always one to tell me, hey, you're looking good. You know, he's always very complimentary. So I look better in a Jeep or a Bronco. Caleb actually doesn't always say you look pretty good. That sounds weird. All right. The show represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. As John Adams usually joins us on a Tuesday, we're going to move him to a Thursday because he's having trouble with his computer, which is not really a huge monstrous surprise, but we'll work with that. Last Look brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn coming up. Also want to remind you, Chattanooga Mortgage, congratulations. Your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Go to Chat Mortgage, chat with 2 T's, mortgage.com, chat with 2 T's, mortgage.com. Also want to thank our friends at Commercial Bank, member FDIC, and City Heating and Air Conditioning, 50 years in East Tennessee. They're coming by to work on my unit today. Integrity matters. cityheatandair.com. Caleb, where are we going here? Are we talking some hoops, or are we talking SEC team would have fared better?
I wanted to give a little bit, not like breaking news, but I just kind of wanted to reroute again. And I want to analyze something Paul Feinbaum said about the Vols. What do you think about that?
Let's do that.
Because Paul Feinbaum on his show was asked about whether Tennessee has returned to being an elite program. And he says that he believes they are very close. Here's his quote. I think they are on the cusp of it. Making the playoff is a very big deal. Remember, Tennessee only has one national championship in almost 70 years. So it's not like they've been at the trial very often, but they're pretty close. Unquote. And one of the reasons I'm intrigued by him saying this is, are Tennessee fans tired of hearing that they're on the cusp of being elite in football and not just elite? I mean, I thought 2022 was the cusp. Like, how long are you allowed to be on the cusp before you say we're here and we're done?
Let's ask that question. Do you feel more or less optimistic about Tennessee's chances of winning a national championship than you did in January 2024? Last Look brought to you by Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. Look at me, LASIK, no contacts, no glasses, and I can see incredible.
The first step to better vision is to visit ccteyes.com. The information you need is easy to access, and setting an appointment is as simple as clicking the tab. Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, and Eye Care Optical at CCTI.
Caleb, I can't sit here and tell you at January 2025 that I feel better about Tennessee's chances of winning the national championship. As a matter of fact, I probably am not as optimistic. What say you?
I'm definitely less optimistic. Now, I say that as someone who picked them to win it all in 2024. I wouldn't have been less optimistic if they didn't win it all in 2024. But after watching them this past year, it's not that they didn't win it all. It's that they really showed they are like 2 levels behind winning it all still. And
why do you say that?
Because they weren't anywhere close to Ohio State's level talent-wise. Like, not even in the same stratosphere. And in the other big game they played against a playoff caliber team this year, Georgia, they lost by 2 touchdowns on the road. I watched this team this year and I thought, and so that's the first part. The other part is, look, this is an offensive-based team. This is an offensive-minded team. And the offense was nowhere close to where it was in 2022. We thought the only issue with 2023 was they didn't have the right quarterback in Joe Milton. Well, that just wasn't true. Okay, because the offense in 2024 looked a lot like 2023 and a hell of a lot not like the one in 2022. And so with that in mind, we got to start asking the question, yeah. I mean, I don't know if, Paul's saying on the cusp of being elite. They've been on the cusp for 3 years. This is like that. I mean, Dave, how often do you hear it when fans are like, oh, we're young, we'll be there. And then you get tired. You're like, I get tired of that a lot because I'm always like, well, the future's now. Okay. The future, like too many people obsess over the future and not think about the now. And honestly, Tennessee should be done thinking about the future. They're going into year 5 under Josh Heupel. They're not going into year 3.
I'm going to say the same. I'm going to say I feel the same. And I say that because I think that Tennessee proved to be a more well-rounded team last year. Didn't have the offensive explosiveness. So I could even go so far as to say I feel more confident, which I know you would probably flip out over. But the fact that they built the defense, the fact that they showed that they could win with 12 personnel, yeah, I'll go ahead and say it. And it is our YouTube poll question, if you want to take part in it. How do you feel about Vols compared to this time last year? Same, better, or worse? Right now, it's all split 3 ways down the middle. I'm going to go ahead and say better because they built the defense, because they built a running game that I didn't think that they necessarily could build in 2022. I thought that Tennessee would always have to outscore people. I didn't know that they could win games, 19-16. So I actually feel better now that I've thought it out in my head. I feel better about Tennessee's chances to win a championship than I did last year. Maybe it's perspective slowly creeping in with time, Caleb, but I'm going to disagree with you. I'm not even going to say the same. I feel better about Tennessee's chances of winning a championship. Am I insane?
I think you're insane. One, Tennessee, we have found out now, got to where they got because they benefited from a very, very weak schedule. Okay. We had
they did beat Alabama and Florida.
Dave,
I'm not saying that's the same as beating Florida in the 90s or Alabama under Saban, but they did beat Alabama and Florida. They did have high expectations to deal with and made the college football playoff. I mean, that means something to not crumble and fall apart after the Arkansas game. I mean, you got to give them a little credit in their mental fortitude for that.
I think look, the middle of the season when things were rough, I give them credit, particularly that Florida win. But they laid the foundation for how to beat Alabama, and then Oklahoma beat Alabama 24-3. A bad Oklahoma team, by the way. And so it's hard with the playoff berth on the line for Alabama.
We're talking about. Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
So I'm having a lot of trouble giving them too much credit because I saw them play 2 games against elite competition, and they got pretty much manhandled both games. And that's what's standing out to me.
Alabama, you said earlier in the show, has elite competition.
Alabama has elite talent. They're not elite competition.
Elite talent, excuse me.
Yeah, they're not elite competition because they have a quarterback who is a horrible fit for Kalen DeBoer's system. So, I'm sorry. I can't look at what the offense did this year and say that I think this team is on the cusp of being elite because I thought they were going to return to their 2022 offense. The defense is never going to be able to win this team a national championship, and they proved that this year. They couldn't win this team a national championship this year. Okay, they needed the offense to step up, and the offense never could. And so I'm looking at this now, and I'm saying, either, and I mean, look, we have to ask a few questions, Dave. Do we have to ask, is Nico processing the way we thought? Is the offense being figured out? I mean, there are some real issues with this. We have to, does Nico have the moxie that Hendon Hooker had as a leader?
Okay, well, let's deal with Nico in particular. I mean, do you feel, obviously everybody felt incredible about Nico this time last year. Why? Because you didn't know anything about him. You just knew he was highly recruited, talented, and going to be great, and had a year to learn the system. But let's let's dive a little deeper in this. Do you feel same, better, or worse about Nico than you did this time last year? Okay, I mean, he's coming off the bowl game against Iowa where he looked really sharp. I will tell you that I feel as good or better about Nico because I blame a lot of Tennessee's issues on the offensive tackles. I blame a lot of Tennessee's issues on injuries and maybe poor coaching at the receiver position. But I saw Nico make throws that I don't think most people can make. So I'm not down on Nico compared to this time last year at all.
I'm down on him because I thought he was created in a lab to run this offense, and quarterbacks created in a lab to run.
I actually referenced you on that Memphis show this morning, Al.
Oh,
you used that line. Well, the chemicals didn't exactly come together in that lab as you had hoped, but I don't think it's suddenly mustard gas like in The Water Boy.
No, but like
pretty good reference,
that is a good one. But what I'm trying to say is that like created a lot to run an offense, you're immediately dominant. I mean, Johnny Manziel was plugged in at Texas A&M without SEC talent and a first-year head coach who won the Heisman. I mean, that's what I thought with Nico in this offense, okay? And that just wasn't the case. And part of it could be the offense has been figured out, which is another issue that we're talking about. Either way, the point that I get to Paul Feinbaum is how often are you allowed to be on the cusp of being elite? How long are you allowed to say we're rebuilding?
Well, I mean, how long did it take Nick Saban to win his first championship?
At LSU or at Alabama? What are we talking about here?
Well, either 3 years.
He won it in year 4 at LSU, and he won the SEC title in year 2 at LSU. Again, that was when he beat Tennessee. That game never, that loss never should have happened. But he won it by year 4. And
I mean, the fact that Tennessee didn't win a national championship in year 4, considering the dumpster fire that they were, and nobody expects Josh Heupel to be as good as Nick Saban. So, I mean, that to me is not a downer at all.
I'm sorry. It's not that he didn't win a national title. There was such a drop off, such a dip with the offense that I'm sorry. I think that's the issue. I don't see them on the cusp of being elite. I don't. As a matter of fact, Dave, I think they got a lot of issues going into this year that they still haven't addressed from this past year. So that's the problem.
All right, we'll see if we can get Paul on. I'll explain that a little bit more. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Support our sponsors. That's why we're here. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Jimmy Hyams will join us. We always love to visit with Jimmy. John Adams will join us later in the week. He's got a new computer, and that equals meltdown. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.